Well, there we go. Now we're recording. Zaid,
Mhm.
hey, thank you in advance for taking some time to talk about what the Positioning Accelerator program is like for you.
Sure.
So, um, who are you and what do you do? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I'm Zaid, and my background is in graphic design and user experience design. And what I am interested in is helping outdoor apparel and gear companies make more money, and doing that using my experience designing for e-commerce. I had a couple jobs where I was designing stores, store experiences online, and I learned a lot on the job, and I took a lot of notes.
Yeah.
And so what I was thinking of is, can I possibly um, create some positioning around that? You know, can
Mm-hmm.
I pick one vertical that I'm interested in? I'm interested in apparel.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I wanted to test was, is there a possibility to find some unique problems that I can solve, or some expertise I can build up around that, sort of leveraging my experience designing or designing for e-commerce.
Right.
I came away with some specialized skills that I realized that a lot of other user experience people didn't have.
So I'm thinking back to when you started the accelerator program. That was sort of where you arrived at through the process we went through, which involves some research and so forth, right? So, can you remember? You probably can remember better than I can. Where was
Mhm.
your head at when you started, and what were the kind of questions you were trying to get answers to, or the problems you were trying to solve?
Yeah, so I started reading the positioning manual, and there was a couple items where I was interested in understanding operationally, how do you do some of the work. I think the problem I came in with, I guess, the main problem I came in with is I didn't have a lot of previous freelancing and consulting work to draw from,
Mm-hmm.
to look at that work and say, okay, well, what kind of clients do I like? What kind of work do I like?
Mm.
Most of the work I had was previous user experience and graphic design work, and a lot of it I didn't like, and I didn't feel that I had solved any particular problems.
Right.
All right, and the places where I did solve a problem, the client type didn't really match up either. Right,
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like I was trying to transition into consulting without any previous experience to draw from.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of so that meant that I had to do a lot of outreach work to those types of companies and talk to them,
Right.
and gather a lot of that information about how their business runs. You know, I didn't have any experience into how these types of businesses actually ran.
Right. So you did research. You did market research. I
Mhm.
remember that. And am I remembering right that you were surprised that people would actually talk to you? Like,
Yeah.
you were a stranger to them. They didn't know you. You approached them and are like, "Hey, can I interview you
Mhm.
about whatever?" How did that go?
Um, well, like most cold emails, I didn't get a lot of responses.
Yeah.
Um, I got one response that was really helped me make a shift in my mind,
Yeah.
and really convinced me that, oh, there are some problems that I can solve.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was I talked to one company, a Woolrich, which
Mm-hmm.
is a wool blanket and apparel company. It's an
Mm-hmm.
old company. And it is sort of in that space of outdoor. It's actually pre-outdoor. It's before outdoor became a thing, actually, right?
Yeah, that's like Sears
It's an
catalog
old company.
era stuff,
Right,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so what I learned talking to the people who handle design and marketing at companies like that was that they actually don't have their act together as much as I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that the companies that I worked at, where I learned how to design A/B tests and how to design for e-commerce and how the user research works and how the content strategy works, I learned that there, I, I did have some experience just working on a team and in a company that does have its act together
Mm-hmm.
around conversion optimization. So even just the practices, let alone the design part, but the practices part. For example, how do you even figure out what to test, right? Where does that knowledge come from to even build up a backlog of user stories of things that you should A/B test, right? And then a lot of best practices around web design or sort of modern web design. And then how their teams are structured as well. I learned that a lot of companies are either outsourcing a lot of that work to marketing agencies who don't have that expertise, actually, who don't have, designing for e-commerce expertise or designing A/B tests or designing for optimization expertise. They don't even have it, right? And so a lot of the work that I assumed they had, they don't have. And a lot of the organizational structures they didn't have. A lot of just common knowledge about just basic web design and how websites work and how Google search works, getting your site even found, a lot of that wasn't being done either. So there's actually a lot of things that they didn't, not they, but companies like that don't have together.
Right.
So that was very interesting, just to learn that a company that, you go on their website and you see, this looks like an established company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you actually sit down and look at it, there's actually a lot that could be fixed. Some of the people that I talked to asked to exchange 15 minutes of an interview for a very cursory evaluation of their site. And once
sort of like a diagnostic or something, right?
Exactly. And once I started to look at their site, I actually did find a lot of problems. So one of the things, for example, is responsive design that a lot of companies actually don't know how to do it right. And I realized, wow, I actually did have expertise in that through my work experience.
Right.
So there's a couple of things where I could look at it and say, this responsive design is actually done wrong, and here's why, and here's how it would be fixed, and here's why this is better from a conversion standpoint, and also from a web development performance standpoint.
Right.
So there's a lot of problems that come up when companies, or from what I discovered, a lot of problems come up when through the organizations and through how the teams are structured. If they're outsourcing too much, or if how they decide what to do is broken, right? Or if they're dealing with an older style of management. So it's hard to convince, like political problems, how to convince a management that we should do this or we should switch to this technology. So, and a lot of things things that came through customer interviews, I didn't know that I didn't know, right?
Right.
For example, the types of technologies that they use and what they're for. So I came away with a whole list of things I had to go and look up that I just didn't think about before I talked. So basically convinced me that yes, like I do have expertise, even though I don't have consulting experience, even just from my job experience, I do have expertise that I can help people with, that I just have to learn how to, one, sell to them and collect information from them and get good at actually presenting something to them that's compelling. So.
Right. So where are you now? This is a sort of unfolding process for you. Where are you now in that process?
So now I'm in the process of working on a lead page, working on figuring out how to get people to that lead page, and then figuring out what to do with those people once they actually do contact me.
Right.
I do have one thing I learned from your website was the idea of the minimum viable funnel. And I basically took that blog post and I went through the steps and I learned enough of Drip, how to plug it into my page. I learned how to sort of put together a lead page, how to do the copywriting for it. I mean, again, it's still rough, but it works. So I think the big achievement for me was at least getting that done.
Yeah.
You know, and then using what I learned in the customer development work to do the sales copywriting.
Right. So you're
And
not
then,
having to invent your own ideas, right?
right. And then also using that when I put together the lead magnet. And lead magnet I did was a checklist of like basic things that your site should have, so that you aren't losing people in your sales funnel. It's not exhaustive. It's just maybe 16 or 17 points. But I wanted to do that to sort of show my expertise and say, here's what you should have, and here's why it matters.
Right.
And here's a couple examples for how you could do that, and things that you could do on your own. Yeah.
I want to drill a little bit into the timeline thing. So, so again, we worked together a while ago, and you were in the program for what, 3-4 months, something like that?
No, it was actually 1 month.
Okay, just 1 month. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
and not all of this got done while you were there. I
Right.
really want to point out to people that for you, you kind of used it to get that level of support and do some planning and figure some things out. And then you kind of went out on your own and implemented, right? So
Yeah,
how long ago was that? Do you remember?
that was probably exactly last year.
Okay. So about a year ago.
Yeah.
And so this is a process that you've been working just continuously since then. I know it's, starts and stops because life sometimes gets in the way, but
Exactly.
is that about right with the timeline?
Yeah, no, exactly. I looked at my email. So we worked together pretty much like in March.
Okay.
And because I remember it was right before my birthday, and then I basically did like the first I did a birthday work retreat where I said, okay, here's the stuff I have to get done. So I took a whole day and I tried to get that done.
Yeah.
And I did a couple sort of group work retreats where I said, I'm going to get this checklist done.
Right.
And, and within like a day, I had like the bones of it.
Yeah.
Right. Based off of my notes from those customer development interviews.
Right. Right.
And then I also went away and worked on a minimum viable funnel. And I learned enough of drip and how to sort of work on my website to get that done. So yeah, so it didn't take a year. It only the actual work only took a couple days.
Right.
But in between that, it was lots of getting distracted and getting sidetracked. But the actual work to get the minimum viable funnel up and running, where you can enter your website and I can send you the cheat sheet, only took a couple days of actual work, because now what I can do is I can go back and I can go into Drip and I can add in, an email course, so I can add in a sequence of 12 emails. So what was really valuable for me was to get enough knowledge and understanding to get the bones of it. So now I have the bones and I can just start adding to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you used the program kind of like a boot camp to deal with some of the stuff that you needed outside help with. And then you were off and running on your own, which I love. I think that's great.
Right. Yeah. And then I think the boot camp helped in helping me psychologically get convinced that this was something I could do. That, okay, I can put together a package. I can sort of think through and figure out how to get a hold of companies, how to sort of qualify the kind of companies I want to work with, and then also understand how to value price out what my offerings were. So now I have like an idea of what a product ladder might be for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I came away with knowing, like, in a concrete way what I'm supposed to be working on. Like, what are the 80-20 activities? I know I'm supposed to be working on having a lead generation site. I know what kind of content I'm supposed to be providing to people. And now I have to really get better at just getting, improving that funnel, and then doing the activities through your lead generation, or your
Like that trust
forgot
velocity thing. Yeah.
trust velocity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really get those activities set up so I
Yeah.
can get people into the funnel, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, but in terms of talking to customers, I had enough practice from the program to actually have more confidence in that. So I'm definitely confident that when I talk to a potential client, I know exactly how to condition them, and sort of what kind of questions to ask them to understand whether or not I can help them. So
Nice. So, what kind of business do you think is the right fit for this program? Who's not a good fit, maybe from what you've seen? What would you say there?
So I'd say, first of all, I entered your program through Double Your Freelancing, and I have been telling people that, hey, if you're like me and you're at the beginning end of it, you really should focus on the positioning work, because a lot of the people that enter that program already either have full-on agencies, or they have experience in getting clients, and they just need a little bit of tweaks. Either they're trying to tighten up their position, or they're getting better at some aspect of the consulting, such as either charging more or getting a higher quality of client in the door, but they really have no problem getting people like in the door. So I feel like if you're in a program where you're trying to get good at freelancing and consulting, the positioning work is what you really should spend a lot of time on. So to me, I think any level of consulting a student or a practitioner could get into the program. I would say, though, is that in terms of philosophy, you really have to be of the philosophy that positioning matters, and that going niche matters. If you're of the philosophy of everybody can use this, everybody can use this info product or this offer, I think it'll be hard for you, because it's a different way of thinking about it. There's a lot of the positioning work that you do, a lot of the byproducts of it are what helps you with the email copywriting, the lead page copywriting, how you talk to people, and what your offerings are, right? And so you have to, on a philosophical level, you have to be down with the idea that going more narrow and decreasing the amount of people that you serve, you have to be down with that. And if you aren't, then that's hard for you. So, because I have encountered other Double Your Freelancing students that do have a big problem with that, and it's very hard for them, and they just can't get their head around it. And so you really have to be down with the actual idea of it. And let's see, what else? I think also people who can do good work, but don't have the business side down, right? Like people like me. So for example, if you do good work on the job, that's fine. But like you said, in a lot of podcasts, you have to eventually take responsibility for your own marketing. And what people don't realize is that when you have a job, like, you're getting paid because there is somebody else doing the marketing and sales to get some customer in the door. Right? It's not just your job appears out of nowhere, right? There's somebody on one end who's selling the products that you're designing or the services that you're providing. So you have to think about, okay, well, what are all the aspects of a company or any business that gets people in the door? all right? And so, I have to figure out how to do that myself. And it really isn't the work. Like a lot of what we're doing in double your freelancing, our work product is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like, you should actually put aside talking about your actual work. Your work is fine. What it really is the business development aspect of it. That's really what you have to get good at. You have to get good at the copywriting, and so if you're saying, and I have encountered people like this, if you're saying, well, I don't really want to do marketing, I really want to do that salesy stuff and talking to people and trying to convince people. Well, at any job you're at, there are people doing that, right?
Yeah.
So, all businesses have to have some part of the business that's all about getting people in the door and selling them and trying to find people who match what you're trying to offer people, So that's what I would say is you have to be down with also the idea of marketing, and you can't feel like it's a bad, icky word, because there definitely are a lot of people who are very idealistic about, especially in design. I don't know how it is in software development, but in design, there are a lot of very idealistic people, and that comes with the territory. So and that's why I think a lot of designers waffle around in that world of freelancing and just give up, because it's so much easier to just do design all day, to put on your headphones and just sort of hide all day doing design work.
Yeah.
Right? Because the work that, to be a consultant, you're doing a lot of the work that the sales and the marketing and the CEO and the product manager are doing. You're thinking about features. You aren't just designing them. You're thinking about, like which feature is good for my client, and that's work that a product manager does. But in the work world, there's this friction between designers and then product managers, because they're the MBA business people, right?
Right.
So you have to be down with the idea of, you have to assume a little bit, not a little bit, you have to become those people. You have to have all of those aspects of the business down. And so what you're teaching is, well, what's like the optimum, easiest way to do that? So you don't have to sit there and do like cold calls all day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you do it where you can automate some of it and have people coming in the door such that you can qualify or disqualify certain clients?
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, Zaid, thank you.
Yeah.
How can people see your funnel? You mentioned you're setting up this sort of minimum viable funnel, and I think it might be interesting for people to go check out and see what you've done that's kind of come out of this program. So where do they go?
ZaidHisham.com.
Can you spell that? Not everybody's going to get the spelling right.
Zaid, Zaid Hisham, HISHAM.com, and there I have a outdoor e-commerce checklist. So, and then I invite people to call me on a Calendly link. So and like for me, I haven't gotten people in there, but for me, it was a big hurdle to get it done at all, to even say, hey, I have a sales funnel and I've learned enough where I can add to it. I know enough web design where I can change my sales page. I can move things around. I can try new things. That's fine, And I already have a list of things that next month I'm going to work on to fix it. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I hope folks do check that out so they can see one of these things in real life. It's not the only thing we do in the Positioning Accelerator program, but for a lot of people, it's the sort of the first big post that they're working to is having some kind of online way to generate leads, because for a lot of folks, that's a dramatic improvement over just getting referrals and depending on luck. Again, Zaid, thank you.
Yeah,
really appreciate you taking the time to do this.